Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Arc Vision podcast. I'm extremely excited to introduce our guest today. Her name is Tanya Todorovic, and some of her professional and personal highlights include her 20 years of experience in the personal development field and how she is now embarking on a new chapter in life as a law of attraction practitioner and relationship coach. And her chief aim is to help people clear and grow through their personal blind spots so that they can live the life that they've always wanted to live. So Tanya, welcome to Arc Vision. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. I'm really excited about this. And the first thing I want to talk about is, I know I mentioned this before we started recording, but I just really want you to share with all of us kind of where you came from and where do you see your journey going? Because I know that in your email, you said that you kind of grew up on a spiritual path. So I'm curious how that came about for you. Yeah,
well, the way I usually describe my, experience whenever anyone asks you, "Oh, tell me about yourself," I always say what you just eloquently said. I've had over 20 years personal development. Back in the day when Tony Robbins was on the late night TV commercials, and then everybody got his audio cassettes, and he was like the first guru, the one raw excitement, and he blew everyone's mind, at least my generation, right? Yeah. And I remember being super excited and getting his cassettes and being like, wow, and it opened up the world to me. And ever since then, I'm from Vancouver. I'm from the West Coast. We got the hippie side, the spiritual stuff, the crystals, like everything that you could go with. That's what I think of. It's like woo-woo, the crystals, the chanting, you go in sweat lodges. Like I've done all those things, right? And I started, so I say spiritual. So I've done everything from being curious about Native Indian culture, being on the West Coast and learning about sweat lodges, to the more corporate Tony Robbins. And then I did all these leadership courses that are about finding out who you are, being a good leader. And I just loved it. I've always loved it. I love people. I love communication. And like, what am I thinking about? When I was a kid, I remember my first exposure going to church, my mom taking me to church. And I remember just having this curiosity. I'm walking through church. And when you're little and you think back of your visual memory of school, and it's always way bigger in your mind.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And then you go back, you see your school, and then it's like,
so small.
It's so small, right? So I have this childhood memory of being in this church for the first time and how big that everything was, because I was really little, right? And so I remember walking, and I have this really cute memory of saying, "Where's the baby Jesus? Where's the baby Jesus?" And I remember the priest was really kind, and he didn't, I can't think of the expression. I can't think of the expression right now.
He didn't make fun of you, or
he didn't make fun of me,
mock you or anything.
He didn't. I remember the expression. He didn't disabuse me of the notion. That's the D word I was looking for.
Okay.
And instead, he was so kind. I have a memory of being little, and he looked down at me and he said, "Oh, the baby Jesus is having a nap right now." And it was like the cutest and sweetest thing. And I have this memory of them being really kind, and that I kept wanting to go back to church. It was so interesting to me. And even though I'm not I'm not religious, I wouldn't call myself that anymore. I was brought up with that just only for a few years, but I've always been drawn to the conversation of something more, something bigger. So my whole life, I'm just drawn to spirit. Every new age thing under the sun has always just been my passion and interest. I love that magical unspokenness that's there between us. That's just always been my draw. So that's the short answer to your question.
And I know what you mean, because I had the same thing. Ever since I was a kid too, I know what you mean. This draw to something greater, like just even in the way I speak, the way I communicate, there's almost an unsaid understanding of how meaningful everything in life is. And it's like that meaning is, maybe life isn't inherently meaningful, but there's almost a, you can call it a plan, or there's just yeah, when I articulate things, there's such a weight of presence to it in a way that people pick up, and they've told me that, and a lot of people can guess that you're not an atheist, I think, when you kind of speak in that way.
Yes, I'm definitely not an atheist. It's like I know there's a greater power. Like I know that we're all connected. I know that we're all one. I know that there's energy and spirit beyond just our physical body. So, but it's not like for myself personally, I like have like one God. It's more that way that it's discussed in New Age, for lack of a better term. It's like the universe or source. That's what I resonate with, and I've always been curious of all the other religions. It's so interesting to me. I always wanted to study world religions. I thought of being a minister. It's just so interesting. You had talked to me before we started about you've been drawn to being a counselor. So it's similar. It's that same people, that kind of thing. So
yeah, it's interesting how some people, we just come into this world curious. Like ever since I was a kid, I just, like, people always joke, like I was expelled twice when I was a kid. I was like a problem child, and it was always, I just wouldn't shut up. Like I just asked a million questions. My mom had to admit to me that Santa Claus wasn't real when I was 5, because I would just ask questions, and then I'd poke loopholes in her answers to the point where she's like, he has me in checkmate. Like I have to admit it. And so she admitted to me that Santa Claus wasn't real when I was 5, just because like I have this weird brain where I'm so curious about like the fundamental nature of everything. I'm just, where do things come from? What do things mean? And even, I don't know, like maybe I was bestowed unhappiness at a young age and like a lot of trauma and stuff. But just like one of my main questions in life for the longest time, up until about a year and a half ago, was just like how to be happy. And so I think that kind of pain, I think in a lot of spiritual people, but maybe a lot of us seem to have this like angst, existential angst, and just a feeling like there's more to life. There has to be more to life. And especially with me being a rebel, like the whole 9-to-5 job, keeping up with the Joneses, the white picket fence, all that just never, I was like, I just can't do that. Like there's too much passion in me to just be able to almost give up. I feel like if you just kind of do the 9-to-5, and I don't mean to insult anyone who does that, but just me, just my perspective is I just never understood how people could do that for their entire life,
I relate 100% what you're saying, including you're not at all invalidating or disrespecting people, that they're fine and they're happy, if not exceedingly happy, and that fills them with something. And we need everyone filling every role.
Exactly.
And I relate 100%. For me, I've described it as I can't be the hamster. For myself, it's like a hamster in the wheel. And it feels like I've settled, when my whole life since I was a kid, I also have known I am not. And ironically, I was in a 9-to-5 government job for years and years and years. But
a government job. Oh my gosh.
And so all my colleagues were like, why do you work here? And then also I would always have clients that I would serve at the front counter, and they would go, I want to talk to that one, the one that's smiling. No offense. I had other coworkers that were lovely, but we're relating. We're
100%. my relation to that was, I was the most out of place subway worker on the planet. I told you this. I was like literally making someone's sandwich. It was a 50-year-old woman. I told you the story. I'm telling everyone else now. So there's this 50-year-old woman. She comes in, and I'm making her sandwich, whatever. And she's just telling me, I don't know how this stuff happens, but like, I just ask people, like, how are you doing? And for some reason, people just open up to me. Like they just like, I'm unhappy. Like, and then I was like, oh, like, what's going on? And she tells me all about how she feels stuck in life and how she's doing this 9-to-5 job, and she gave up on her dream. And I was like, okay, like, why don't you just go now and do your dream? And she's like, I don't know if I can. Like, everyone says I can't. I'm like, no, just do it. Like,
And would you like pickles on that?
Yeah. And then like, I'm like, it's taking like 10 minutes to make a sub. And then after she's gone, I get her to re-enroll into university. She's going to be doing an English degree and she might want to be like a teacher or something, right?
I love
and then
it.
So after she leaves, my boss comes in and she goes, "You talk for too long with her. You can't be doing that." And like in my head, I was like that was the moment where it's like, oh my fucking God. Like, are you serious? I'm going to change this fucking woman's life. And you think a Subway sandwich is worth more than that? Like, that's when I was just like, I'm in the wrong place, like straight up. And this would happen. Like, I'd be like coaching my coworkers, like they're like 18-year-olds and stuff, and they're worried about their future, and I'm inspiring them to like do all these things. Like my boss like almost fired me. Like it was just like I was like, yeah, I don't belong in this world. I need to do this. And now I'm working at Good Life, and straight up, Good Life is actually a really good job because at least I'm in sales, and at least I'm doing something where I'm selling fitness. I'm selling something I believe in. I'm selling inspiration.
Something you believe in, inspiration. Yeah, I totally get it.
Exactly. And luckily, I have the best boss in the world. She's like, Julia is the best. She's like, when she hired me, she's like, because she asked me about my life, right? And I was telling her about like all these big dreams, like I want to change the world with my channel and stuff. And she goes, "Okay, like you're not going to be here for like very long, but while you're here, you know, I really value you, and what can I do to support you in your dream?" I was like,
"Oh, that's cool.
Are you serious? Like no one's ever been like this." And yeah, so she's just like the first boss that just really, I was like, wow. Like, and then I think about her and I'm like, you have this amazing personality. And like, again, kind of what you said, it's like, maybe Good Life is all you want. Like, you know, growing up, I always used to have questions about farmers. Like, and I was like, they seem so happy, content, you know, just on the ranch with their families. And that's my first time where I was like, you know what, maybe we are different. Maybe that my dreams are just mine. Because, you know, when you're young, like you project and you're like, okay, whatever insecurities I have, whatever dreams I have, everyone must share them. But that was the first time in my life where I was like, you know what, maybe, like you said, we're all different. We're all parts of the puzzle. Like we're all puzzle pieces in a grand puzzle.
Absolutely. Yeah. I relate.
So I wanted to follow up on what you were saying about kind of your life moving forward. And so where do you see your journey going? And especially, like I mentioned, you just started this new chapter of your life.
Yeah.
Where do you see this going for you?
Yeah, it's funny. Normally there'd be like, oh, well, I envision it this. Part of what I'm honestly excited about is I don't know yet.
Yeah, that's honest.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. It's more than kind of cool. It's very cool. I've gone from doing all sorts of coaching with communication with people, conflict resolution. My other passion is the differences in masculine and feminine energy and helping people learn about that. And I thought I would end up just working in that field because it's such an area of interest for me. And then during the lockdown, I really extra focused on law of attraction, Abraham Hicks, which a lot of people listening, I'm sure know, and anybody that doesn't can go look it up. But hold on, I'm thinking out loud, so bear with me.
Oh, that's fine.
It's like I had this shift going from I thought it was going to be specifically communication and relationship focus. And then I uncovered, it's kind of like my life led to all the different pieces of the training that I've done, just like have led to you doing this right now that we're doing. And for me, it's like, I like to say it's my superpower that I'm really skilled. I'm an expert at having a conversation with someone and able to figure out what's the block that they can't see. From all the ways I've done this over the years, and this is the spiritual training combined with the other training. It's like all the stuff I know about human dynamics combined with the spiritual training, and it's come together. And it's like my own form of being able to clear somebody, whatever's in their way, you know, and it's all based on, going in the direction that I'm very, very passionate about is knowing that our energy is what's at the basis of everything. It's like your alignment, your vibrational energy comes first, and then you can create anything you want in life. Whereas the paradigm that most people have been operating in the world have been, you look at the circumstances outside of you and they dictate your mood and what you're going to do. Whereas in the world of paying attention to your alignment and the law of attraction, it's the other way around. And that is beyond exciting for me. That's like the magical piece. So the fact that I know how to help people really understand this and master this, I'm so excited at being part of. There's like a movement in that whole community, which has become the norm now. And I'm one of the people who's very experienced and advanced at this. And I can facilitate people getting into their power and having anything they want and removing any blocks. And it's like one of my abilities to help people access that so they don't feel stuck. The ones who like us did. You know, like there are people who are living lives that they don't love. They don't know how to get out of it. And so when I can contribute to them figuring out what there is to do for themselves to move forward and have these bigger and grander lives, I am thrilled. So it's all this, it's like the one-on-one conversations, like you were saying, that I love to have. And then from there, the next kind of logical step down the road will be teaching other people to do it. So it's helping expand a global consciousness of people all operating from that. So that's probably the easiest way to say, I know that I'm going to be part of, it's become mainstream now, you know, it's no longer just you're a fringe hippie woo-woo person. My friends are engineers and doctors and lawyers, and they talk about this stuff. And so, but I get to be part of expanding it and really helping people apply it. And that just thrills me to no end, because when we're operating in that place, we're going to disappear the conversations that are the big problems of the world. So it ties all in that way. Does that communicate? Like I'm thinking out loud. Does that communicate?
No, you're just like me. I'm the same way. This is why I need to be a podcast host. It's like, right? I also like, I learned that was okay. Like my entire life, I was like, I hated myself for being this like kind of, I would think out loud. I have this kind of process, and that's how I had conversations. Yes. And it wasn't until I think I saw like Jordan Peterson live, and he's like this massive public speaker, and I was like, he's allowed to think out loud? Like that's allowed? And then people loved him for it, and I was like, oh whoa, this changes everything. Maybe I don't have a deficiency. Maybe this is literally like part of, again, like you said, a superpower. The ability I'm not broken. I have a skill that's valued. Yeah, because I think the merit of it is that if people that can think out loud, it's almost like a form of articulation. Because a lot of people, when you're speaking to them or when you're observing them, you don't know how they arrive, where they arrive. And with someone like you who thinks out loud, someone like me, someone like Jordan, is that what people I think admire so much is they can see every part of that thought process. Yeah. And there's so many gaps, I feel like, when I've been talking to people, that a lot of people don't even know how they think. They don't even know how they arrive at conclusions. And sometimes like articulation itself is a superpower. The ability to break down how thought processes work and help people kind of bridge those gaps in their own thinking. Yeah. And just being around that, I find, is really helpful to people. But back to what you were saying, I absolutely understand and relate to you because I also see myself as this weird person in the middle. Growing up, I was, my mom was very into spirituality, but I was also like, I was into video games, I was into sports, I was into reading, I was into TV. There's I don't know if I'd call them non-spiritual, but when you think of spiritual, you think of home in like a Buddhist monastery, like away from the TV, away from sports, football. And so it got to a point where I was at this like crossroads where I felt like I had to pick, either the spiritual route or, the normal life, and relating to most human beings. And then it dawned on me, like, as I think you are in this very much as well, is that we can do both. I feel like it's hard. I think we're here to bridge those two worlds, because if there isn't people like us, this will always be viewed as a divide of two different kinds of people, where the sports football player will look at the Buddhist and be like, dude, that's insane. I can't give up my passion. And the Buddhist will look at the sports person and be like, oh, you need to live closer to God. And then there's the people like us and people like Aubrey Marcus and people like, in some respect, I find like Joe Rogan and Tony Robbins. Like you said, I feel Tony is very much in that middle place too, trying, because I even heard an interview of him. He said that he's like, because people asked him, they're like, you're so spiritual. Why don't you lead with spirituality? Why are you so much about money? And he said, he's like, what I do is people only listen to me if I can solve their financial problems. But once I've solved their financial problems, then I can bring in the spirituality. Because if you're worried about getting food on the table, taking care of your children, your emotional problems, your relationships, it's like you can't build anything spiritual in your life. You can't even have the time, and you're stressed and you're worried about everything. It's like financial stresses are real. And I didn't get that for the longest time. I was like, oh, if you focus on finance, you're in some way, you're part of the problem. But now I don't see that. I see that, like I hope that you are able to build this up in a grand way and have financial freedom, because I feel like we all need that.
Oh, yeah, no. Like when I said I don't know the direction, it would probably be more accurate to say I'm not attached to which way it goes.
Exactly.
I absolutely know. Like you very powerfully said, I think it was before we started recording, like, that this is going to take off. You feel it, right? And this is what I'm here to do. It's absolutely what I'm here to do. All modesty aside, I am fantastic at helping people with this, and people want this. So it's just a given to me that this is going to grow and expand, but I'm not attached to the form that it takes.
Exactly.
So that was more my answer of like, where do I see it going? I can see it going many different ways, like lots of different websites. I give seminars, I go do things like that, or maybe it'll be books, or maybe I'll turn it into helping other people grow and teach different aspects. I'm not attached to the form that it takes, but I can feel the momentum of this growing and helping the conversation be mainstream. Like, I loved what you were saying when you were just using the cute example about the Buddhist and the football player.
Yeah.
And it was so cute what you said. And I got excited when I heard that, because it's like, what did you say? Like the football players, I can't give up my passion. And the monk said, you've got to be closer to God. And then I immediately heard it's like the football player is just as close to God as you are, because that's his passion. And that's my favorite thing that I love teaching and helping people remember, that it's not about sitting there. It is about meditating. That's a whole other conversation. It absolutely is about meditating. Keep that in there. That's one conversation. But then the next one, and this is the thing that I'm most excited about, is that you're closer to source, universe, God, when you're following your highest passion. And that's the magic. How cool is it that we're in a new paradigm that I'm helping perpetuate, that's teaching people it's not about a hard work ethic. It's about following your passion ethic. I don't know. I just invented that right now.
Your curiosity, your passion.
Yeah, following your curiosity, your highest joy, your highest excitement is what actually fulfills you. That's not the thing to have on the side that was the old paradigm that people would do. Instead, lead with that and watch how you can turn that into your work. And it's not only me doing it, but giving that gift, demonstrating to people that you can do that. That, to me, it removes the anger, the tiredness, the exhaustion, the hatred that causes the upset, that causes, from that to war, domestic abuse, all these things. When people are fulfilled inside and they're calm and healthy and self-expressed, they're willing to dialogue about everything and anything that matters. Yeah. And they don't need to, what did you just say? Oh, brain fart. It was, you just said something. Oh, it'll have to come back to me.
Yeah, just keep going.
It'll come back. I'm just all like, you got me talking.
Yeah. But, it's, I love I love what we're talking about right now, because I feel like we are, like you said, we're going through this resurgence of, we're almost having the biggest, I feel, spiritual revolution that we've had since like the 60s and the 70s with the psychedelic movement. I feel that that was such a massive time of, kind of consciousness awakening. And then we went through this, like, I remember, because I'm a music guy. So I see like kind of genres and time periods as associated with music, because what did you have in the 60s and 70s? You had psychedelic rock, Pink Floyd, the Doors crossing over to the other side. You have these very psychedelic bands. And then what do you have in the 80s? Glam rock, glam metal, Bon Jovi, sex, drugs, rock and roll. And that was like, it seems that there's not a normal split ever in energy. It's like, it's always like almost opposites. It's like something ends, the next thing is so far. It's like the next thing is a rebellion of that energy. It's like on to the next. And then it almost is like we had to go through that complete divorce of spirituality in our society for us to get to the point now, from a mental health perspective, from a spiritual perspective, where we are aching. We are crying out for something more meaningful, to the point where, what do we have now? We have depression rates skyrocketing, suicide. My cousin committed suicide. So it's like just seeing these things just come to this head. We are so, and then COVID comes and we're all panicked. And I feel like this is the time for people like you and I and all these kinds of people who are trying to bridge these two worlds. It's like you said, you so eloquently said, it's like you can live on the center point between that spiritual life and that just passionate life. You don't need to be praying every day to lead a meaningful life or a happy life. The farmer who's taking care of his cattle and he cares so much about that. That's so meaningful to him. That's his passion. That's his curiosity. It's like, just follow your curiosity and you'll never get lost. That is, I often say, like, curiosity is the language of God, or intuition is the language of God. And it's like, just follow that. And because people always say, no, you have to think, think ahead. And we're so divorced from our intuition, I feel, in our society right now. And like you said, I feel like we're having this resurgence, I feel, and people like you are going to be on the forefront. That, again, you're not saying you can't, have your vices, you can't let go of everything you love, No,
I'm saying lead with the things you love.
Exactly. It's just be in the middle and just embrace who you are. Just be yourself. Figure out what you love and just move forward with that.
Yeah. I love seeing the shift from that mentality of hard, this is what I was saying before, and I think when I lost my train of thought, it's like, I love the shift from hard work and then your passion on the side. How about passion forefront leads to the work? It requires a cultural shift. It's like, I was talking to some of my friends and fellow practitioners in our law of attraction community, and referencing like Nike, do it. Right? Just do it. And it's like, we're leaving that behind, and it's just be it. It's like, don't lead with the action, lead with the energy first. And then the action flows from the inspiration. It's being part of ushering in the movement of people not being so consumed with this to-do list that stresses them out, trying to compete with the Joneses, doing all these things they should. Where are they running to? For what purpose? It's like this human being automaticity, or you're just like this, opposed to stop and just be, which that's one of the silver linings of COVID. You've been forced. If you don't go into massive depression, like God bless those that do and have gone through stuff. But it's this opportunity to stop and reflect and just lead with these other, you don't have to be so action oriented that you can actually get out of your mind, like you just said, and into your body and into your feelings. And that's where these impulses and inspiration come from. And you were saying, like, you're creative. That's where that creative comes from. That's where that curiosity, and it fills that cup. And for me, when you lead with that, rather than that giant A-type personality to-do list, I say it in a kind of invalidating tone, mocking tone,
yeah.
and I'm being a bit cheeky, because absolutely you can get results with that. But what I'm really excited about is I'm learning and experiencing that what I've heard said, that I don't know if I'm going to get the quote right exactly, but it's like one person aligned in their energy is 1,000 times more powerful than like 100 people.
1,000,000.
It sounds like you know it too. And
Yeah.
I just love feeling that and experiencing that, sharing it, like leading by example, so that people get inspired. And then they're like, how come things are coming so easy to you and you're not like so exhausted, and being able to like, it's just, it brings me joy.
I'm also just very excited about the future. And I have like you, I have no clue how my future is going to turn out, how our future as a collective society is going to turn out. Because like I'm always thinking about the future. I'm always thinking about where we're heading societally. Because one other thing that you wanted to touch on that I love is you were curious how new technologies will impact us personally and culturally. And that's something that I'm always thinking about, like, what is this relationship of, like, in many kind of spiritual ways, like when you think of a spiritual person or you think of a spiritual society, we often think of, with nature, one with nature, kind of living with nature, living in the trees, living in off the land.
Yep.
And then, now we're thinking about, okay, moving forward with our human growth rate, we're soon going to be at 10 billion people, and, we're covering the world in concrete. So I'm always thinking, how do we balance this? How do we maintain, like, if we all do end up having a spiritual awakening, let's say, or like 50% of us do.
Yep.
How does that play out with our growing numbers and cities? And like, have you ever thought about that? How do you think this all plays out?
I certainly don't have it figured out, but there's been conversations about this with friends, and it's like, what am I thinking? I've got about 5 tangents kind of going off at once when you say that.
Go with the first one.
Well, the very first one isn't a direct answer, but when you said technology is moving forward, I was like, artificial intelligence. Like, you were talking nature, and I was thinking artificial intelligence, and like all of that happening. And here we are in the middle of a pandemic, and it's the norm now for us to be communicating
Zoom
this way. And everyone's going to, even when it's considered safe at some point for everyone to return to work, there's going to be this whole shift with people working this way. So that was one thing. That's not an answer. That's just where my mind went.
Totally.
And then the other way the conversation has gone, like from what you said, is so when I think of spirit, I think of when we are all really present to that we're all one, when we're not present to our differences, we're not battling over religion and race, and we're all taking care of each other, and we're all operating from we are all one. I don't know how we'll get there, but I imagine standing in that place where as a human race, we have solved it. And it's like, okay, when we're operating from that paradigm where we're all one, opposed to, like, right now you're protective of your immediate circle, your immediate family, your immediate community. And depending on who you are, your circle will expand a certain area where you're protective and passionate, but then it kind of stops there in the way that we culturally are, at least here in North America. I'm imagining one day in the future where we're all operating like we're all one, and we relate to someone on the other side of the world as just as important as my brother, my mother, your immediate person. And when humanity is all thinking from that place, we will have solved. We won't allow poverty. We won't allow war. We won't allow those kind of problems. And we won't we would have, again, I don't know the how. I just know that we won't have created the ecosystem being completely destroyed by stupidity and concrete and stuff. So that thing that I was trying to express when I wrote to you that this is a topic that I'm interested in, it's like, if we stand there and imagine that we've created it, what do we do next? What would we be up to if we weren't trying to solve these god awful problems that we deal with, right?
Yeah.
And then from standing in that place, it makes me think of, oh, well, we would have solved this. So what does our economy look like now? How do we have commerce? How do we do it when we're all taking care of each other, when it wouldn't even be acceptable to walk by the homeless person? Like, we wouldn't allow, like, it would just be, you wouldn't let a homeless person be on the street, because if we're all coming from, we're all one. So if we've all gotten to that place, what would it look like? How would the world all be operating? Does that make sense? Like, how would we have jobs? Who would do what would be our form of exchange? And it's kind of like maybe a backwards plan from standing in that energy might reveal some of the answers of how to go forward and solve it. Does that communicate?
It does.
And it opens more questions than answers.
It does. And one thing that I'm gathering from what you're saying is the way we solve society's problems is the same way that we solve our own problems. And that's, we don't try to solve them. We essentially get into the intention, get into the energy first, get happy, get passionate, follow your bliss, follow your curiosity, and the answer will arrive. Essentially, the universe, whatever source you want to call it, it will create synchronicities, and as what people would consider coincidences, to arrive at the very answers that will lead to a better future. So instead of from a place of anxiety and stress trying to solve our problems right now, just work first, like you said, about let's all just change the paradigm of living to let's just all be happy. When we're all passionate and happy, then the answer will appear. In the same way that, like, it happened to Albert Einstein, Nikola Tesla, all of our favorite inventors and scientists, none of them know where the answers came from. None of them know how they arrived at these things that we now live by. Yeah. And they all say it was just inspiration. It was just synchronicity. It was just the right place at the right time. And I think that in so many ways, the same principles are true for everything. What's going to help you with your life individually is going to be the same as what helps our lives collectively. Yeah. We have to do the same process, and we'll end exactly where we end. And like you said too, we don't know what it's going to look like. We don't know what the form is going to be, but we know that it is going to be pleasurable, peaceful. Because again, like you said about your life, you don't know what you're going to be doing in 10 years, but you're going to enjoy it.
I know it's going to be spiritually based. It's going to be full of laughter. It's going to be full of abundance. It's always going to be focused on all those things, but I'm not attached to what the form is going to look like. And you said something a minute ago, if I may, were you finished your thought?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, cool. It's kind of like calling out my own thought when I heard it said back by you, right? Because we were both talking out loud and thinking out loud. And it's like, if we all are just happy, you could say, oh my gosh, listen to these Pollyannas. What about the other thing we were talking about? What about those people that are dealing with survival? How are they supposed to get happy? So that's what I said. I don't know the answer. I'm not saying this is all perfect and go, lick lollipops and hug unicorns, but I'm saying, I don't know. It's like, how do we, because exactly like you eloquently said, you cannot focus on those things when you're in crisis about your survival. It's like, if we can just get every man, woman, child, animal having shelter, like the basic decency things of life, your safety, your basic survival. You can't have the bigger philosophical goals until the basic human instinct of survival is provided for.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Is that, we just have to get to a point where enough of us can uphold a level of, society where the survival aspects are taken care of, so that those stresses are off people's backs. Because I think if we take away those survival stresses, I think, and then people start to do what they enjoy more.
Yes.
It's snowballs. As they become happier, they become happier. As they become happier, they become happier. It's just,
yes.
And then, like, again, they'll start getting intuitions and downloads, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And those will just like me, just like, cause like I said before going live, or maybe I've said this since, but like up until about a year and a half, 2 years ago, the only question on my mind was, how can I be happy? Like, just straight up, like I was miserable. So it's like I remember asking a mentor of mine, like, will I ever be happy? And he's like, you will, just, give it time. And then it just started getting little by little, better by better. And I just started just snowballing. And then now to the point I'm like, I'm content. I'm extremely happy with my life. And it didn't happen in 1 second. It didn't happen in one day. It was just stress by stress was just slowly lifted as my living conditions got better.
That's it. When you're not battling the survival. And what I heard what you said is those of us that right now, where we are in life, have basic survival or more handled. And as we're growing, the more humanity grows, I believe the basic human instinct of at least 70, if not 95, 98% of us, once we're not dealing with survival and competition and scarcity, once we feel safe in our survival, I think the natural human instinct of then making sure everybody else is handled will come about. So
yeah, exactly. Go on.
No.
Yeah,
just kind of.
It's
yeah.
It's essentially the idea of like a rising tide lifts all boats.
Sorry, I didn't hear you. Say again.
A rising tide lifts all boats.
Oh yes,
so
yes.
It's this idea that as enough of us kind of end up getting our shit together, for lack of a better term. Yeah. Like you said, these things will just start to work themselves out. I think that as a majority of us get to a good place, ideas will start coming about how to form societies that are more equal and not in the PC liberal way, but truly just like, survival's covered. And then when that comes, all the people that were surviving, what is there to survive anymore? Because we've created a system that just takes care of one another. Yeah. And whether it's UBI, and I don't know if that would work, but it'll be something where I think an economic change will be a huge one for us. I think that we need to fundamentally alter the way that resources are handled. Because if you think about it, people will think, oh, but people will be lazy, they won't do anything. Well, it's not exactly. If you look at tribal societies, they all take care of one another. Like, they literally raise each other's children. So nobody is ever hurting. And somehow it worked for them. If there was someone who was having a hard time, they'd take care of it. And I feel that, again, the same mentalities, it's the same metaphor across the board. We need to just scale the same ideas that work in smaller societies. We need to find a way to scale them to larger societies. And who knows, as Elon Musk, like, he wants to terraform Mars. Maybe we might live on other planets. Who knows? Absolutely. Like you said, the form. Don't get caught up on the form. Get caught up on the lifestyle. And it's going to work out. It's just, how does it work out? Who the fuck knows? No one knows. It's just.
No, it's true. I like what you said about, like, in, what did you call other tribes and stuff? Like,
tribal societies.
There you go. That's how you worded it. And it's like, and when people were saying, like, well, what about the people that are going to be lazy? I don't think people are inherently lazy. I think that's a person dealing with despair, anxiety, depression. They didn't heal from a grief. They aren't getting a chance to follow their passion. I don't think you're inherently lazy unless there's something there. There's something blocking you. So that's why it's, again, the argument. Well, to me, it's not an argument. It's just a fact. Energy first. You resolve those things.
Exactly.
And absence of all that, there's alcohol and Netflix, like whatever.
Yeah.
Until it's all figured out.
And there's something that you raised in me, and
Okay.
it's essentially that have you ever met someone who is both simultaneously extremely passionate about something and lazy about the thing they're passionate about? I haven't. I've never met someone who is passionate about something and lazy about that same thing. So I think,
are you saying that's the way it is, or you're asking me if I've had that experience?
It is somewhat rhetorical. I think it's true across the board, but maybe you found someone who's not. But yeah, it's just, like you said, it's all these people that, are lazy, that we say, oh, if they were given resources, they wouldn't do anything. You're right. Like, look at every single one of them. As a betting man, I think that 99 to 100% of them are dealing with deep emotional trauma, or as you would call them, energetic blocks, or whatever that is. They're dealing with something that is, first of all, they're probably not passionate about anything. Back to what I said earlier, back to what you said. So it's almost like the antidote to laziness is passion. Like my dad, my entire life pretty much called me like a lazy piece of shit. My entire life. He's like, you're incredibly lazy. You're, selfish, all this kind of stuff. And it's like, when I found the thing that I was passionate about, which is, YouTube or podcasts or just like counseling, talking to my friends, these emotional things, or even like working out my own shit. Like, I'm not lazy when it comes to working out my own shit.
Yeah.
So it's like, just help people find the thing that they're passionate about. And I think you alleviate laziness right there.
I agree. That's what I meant by it creates inspired action. Yeah. As soon as you've got the energetic alignment in place, you remove the blocks, it immediately, to use your words, you get the creative impulses, which automatically lead to action, opposed to that old paradigm of leading with action first, forcing yourself to do it, making yourself do it. And that's what causes exhaustion and breakdowns and things like that. Not for everyone, but for a lot of people. So it's like, have the beingness sorted first, which will inspire the action, not the other way around. And that's the shift that I'm so excited about for humanity, right?
Yeah. And I'm very curious, because I love your passion, but what do you have any intuition, any clue, any thought on that timeline? Like, when do you have any idea when we're going to reach this turning point, this pivot point where, when do you think we'll really start seeing the fruits of all this?
Well, I think we're starting. I think something's happening. Something significant is happening right now with COVID. I think there's definitely there's something happening for people, and it's like, you're going to come through this on the other side, or you're not. That's a big, big part of it. And it's forced people to be introspective and to go in. I honestly hadn't I hadn't asked myself like that, the way you just asked it, like in a deeper way, when will it fully transform humanity? And part of why, I don't mean to sound rude, part of like why I don't care about that question is, I don't mean it in a rude way, just hear me out, is I think we have more than one lifetime. So I'm not attached to the when. It's like, oh, maybe my next kick of the can, or like, so that's probably why I never stopped. Does that communicate? Again, I'm thinking out loud. I'm like, am I making sense? Hearing my inner thoughts?
That makes sense. That absolutely makes sense. And I like what you said about COVID, because I think that is true. There's this deep silver lining with COVID, I feel, that, like, because, I did the certification exam for astrology. So like, I'm actually not technically a certified astrologer, because I did it with a friend who is a certified astrologer, and I did it with her. So I was in New Zealand when I was supposed to do the test. So I was like, okay, I want to do this certification exam with you before I go to New Zealand, just to know that, like, I can do it. But anyway, the reason why I bring up astrology is, like, people are always saying 2020. Everyone was saying 2020 is going to be this year of massive change. Okay. And no one knew how that was going to be the case, but just we kept hearing 2020. That's when Saturn and Pluto are converging. Their energies of Saturn, which is real, tangible, effective practicality. And then you got Pluto, which is transformation and evolution. So what do you get what do you do when you get like transformation, evolution, and stability and like, something that's real? It's like you get like a destruction of everything that's fake, everything that's on the surface, everything that isn't sustainable, and it's going to be replaced with something that's real and sustainable. And so again, we had no clue. We're like, in 1 year, like in 2 years, like you really think that everything's going to change? But then what happens? COVID. And then COVID is this thing that, bam, like just everything changes in 2 weeks. Literally, our world economy shut down. We're inside, like what you said earlier, so much to the point where our entire society might shift in 4 months because nobody's going to be going to work. That is a huge shift about how we as human beings live our lives, how we interact with each other, how we interact with our lifestyles.
Yeah.
So it's like that, maybe like you said, COVID is the instigator. Maybe when we come out of this, things are just going to be changed forever because we realize, like you said earlier, the hamster wheel is pointless. It was just an illusion. No one needs to be going to the office 9 to 5 every day. Nope. We're realizing, I can work whenever. I can work from Costa Rica if I'd like to. I don't need to be in Canada because I can do everything on Zoom, or I can, it's this new world is opening up.
Yeah, and employers have been able to see that they don't have to panic. Like they don't have to keep the view over them with the employees in the cubicles. Look, the people stood up and they were able to deliver. You could trust people. People actually have a desire to contribute. That don't have deep issues like you said. So, but it would show employers, look, you didn't have to have the cost of your office. We don't have to, you can be pantless. That's what a lot of people say. No, but you know what I mean? It's like this whole new opportunity, right? So yeah, it's a big transformational place because there's been so much introspection for people to really, it's forced introspection. And it can't help but cause a massive shift in how we be and interact. I did a podcast yesterday with my friend Josh, and we were talking a bit about this exact same thing, COVID. Okay. And he brought up an interesting point. He said that habits dictate life, habits dictate reality, and COVID broke all our habits. Big time. Well said.
And it's like in that moment of broken habits, you can reflect, because we're such habitual creatures that we get in these lifestyle ruts, these routines and simultaneously, when we're living physically these routines, we also psychologically live them. And when you have your morning routine and you have your coffee, you do your whatever you do, like chances are you're probably not, your thoughts are very similar every day. Where the moment you break routines, your thoughts suddenly are expanded. You think about things you've never thought about, for good or for worse. Sometimes you get anxiety, right? Anxiety is part of that. And that's natural because you are breaking that routine. You're breaking that mental habit of same old.
Well, the unknown can feel threatening. It can make that animal instinct feel like my survival's in jeopardy. So it causes that anxiety that you're saying. Yeah.
Absolutely. So COVID is funny. We're like, some people are going to look back and be like, COVID was the worst thing in the world. But I think a lot of us are going to look back and be like, that's when my life changed. That's when I was confronted with, the thought that maybe I can do this. Like, for me, this entire YouTube thing was born out of COVID. It was a COVID baby, as they say. And I'll look back.
Yeah. And for me, getting that opportunity to really focus on honing my skills into this way that helps people. And the same with you. It's like, and launching the business specifically in this way. I was like a generalist before, helping people, but now it's like, I got the time to explore, and it was like, and the impulses and the curiosity, and it honed it for me. So there's that wonderful, I certainly miss hugging people and all the other stuff. And of course there's all the tragedies and the things that nobody wishes on anyone, but there's absolutely silver linings. So yeah, for sure.
And I think that for a lot of us too, and especially it seems like you, COVID also, it gave you a glimpse of the future maybe. Because for you to specifically tailor your company a certain way, I think COVID might have given you a glimpse of a way to market your services, a way to build your brand, a way to build your company that we didn't glimpse before. Like, I don't think anyone knew that Zoom was going to be so big and that you could build a company with Zoom as like your main framework in the middle.
Yeah. And you're speaking to me because we're having a conversation, but it's like everyone, this applies to so many people who were like, oh, maybe I'm an entrepreneur. Maybe I'm going to be forced to be an entrepreneur and like, look at all these things. It's cool to have all these new ways of looking at things, like all these different possibilities that you're forced to confront. Because there's people like us who have always been curious, but it's forcing people who were like, I was happy with the status quo. Well, you don't get to have the status quo. You went out for food every day. Guess what? You couldn't anymore, you know? Like as one simple example, you know? Yeah.
It's very true. And and it's kind of like, because after this whole COVID thing, and after, I'm the kind of guy, when I get onto something, I'm like, everybody should do it. Like, so as soon as I got onto YouTube and podcasting, like people come in and like, you know, I'll meet people. I'd be like, oh, are you on YouTube? Like, and they're like, no. And then I'm like, oh, what do you do? And they're like, oh, I'm a mechanic or whatever. And I'm like, oh, you could start a YouTube channel about being a mechanic. You could like share, like, and it opened this door for me where I'm like, whoa, almost everything can be translated to YouTube. Yeah. Almost everything. And like that opens so many lifestyles. Like so many people like now starting this, they ask me questions about, you know, all the opportunities this grants me. And they're like, yeah, I wish I could travel. I wish I could do this. I wish I could do that. And it's like, okay, like, yeah, sure, you're a mechanic. But if like, okay, this was it. It was one of my coworkers, Maria, she when she's working at Good Life with me, like we both work at Good Life, but this is my side business, and her side business is she's a jewelry vendor. Right? Okay. And she's like, yeah, like, you know, it's just gonna be really hard to, you know, sell jewelry after COVID and kind of pay the bills and everything. And it just dawned on me. I was like, why don't you just go on YouTube and just start a talk show about jewelry and the new fashion trends and all this stuff? And she's like, you really think so? I was like, absolutely. Yeah. And now you have financial freedom because you were worried before about finances. Jewelry, as you were doing it, is not scalable. YouTube is scalable. So it's like, now you can make, if you could max out at 80 grand a year before, there's no ceiling to YouTube. There's no ceiling to the people. Like right now, your ceiling is the physical people in that room, in that mall, in that physical geographical area. We're entering a world where you can sell things online. First of all, you don't need to physically sell an item. You can put them to your Amazon webpage and sell them there. So it's just all these ways we're thinking about business, all these ways that we're thinking about trade, all these ways we're thinking about day-to-day lifestyles. Like they are going up in flames.
What is your thought with your passion for social media and all these opportunities? What's your thought though about that we're pack animals? You know, we also need the human contact. How do we balance that? Sure. What are your thoughts about this? I'm really curious.
Absolutely. So I think about this constantly because I'm a hugger. Like you, I'm a physical, like I give everybody a hug. People give me a handshake. I'm like, nope, hugger. Like,
I've decided for you.
Yeah, this is what you are now. But yeah, as someone who like, you know what? Like, I love talking to you on Zoom. This is amazing. Yeah. But there's something special about face-to-face. I can't get away from that. And this podcast, I do want this to be face-to-face in the future. I want a majority of my podcast to be face-to-face because I want to feel that connection. I want to be in that room. And there's just something when you're friggin' locked in with someone and there's just there's an energy, there's a vibration to it. And so, sure, like there is a part of my life, and I can only speak for myself, but you know, with it, my YouTube thing, my podcast thing, there's going to be a part of my life that's digital. You know, like I said, these reaction videos I'm doing and stuff, they're very digital. I can't react to a song with a million individual people. I just can't do that, right? And that's fine. It's that kind of content. I'm more than happy to do digital. Okay. And the great thing about this is, again, it's scalable, and so is the time I take. because I can batch. I can do 7 videos in one day, and that's 1 video a day. And then I can go to the beach, hang out with my friends. I can go do a podcast in person. I can do whatever. I can even batch a month's worth of videos in a week and then go travel with my family. So the great thing about all this stuff is you can work ahead and then have that work for you while you're not. So definitely, this does not, for me at least, and I don't think for anybody, I don't think this will overtake our need for social interaction, but I think it will buy more time for meaningful social interaction. Where before, when you were working at your 9-to-5 job all day, 8 hours a day, it's like, sure, maybe you're physically in the same room or in the same cubicle as someone, but you're not really connecting. Where with this, okay, I take 5 hours on one day, I make all the content I need for a week. And then for the rest of the week, I have that real passionate engagement with people. And I'd like to make whatever it takes. I want 80-20. 20% is digital, 80% is in person. And if I can scale that to where I make 20% of the content digital that, makes me 80% of my money, maybe I can even go to conferences, talk, be in person with my fans. Yes. Like I want to find a way, again, 80-20, find a way to do 20% of my stuff digital that pays 80% of my money. So I can do 80% in person that pays 20% of my money. It's like, I want that. We don't know how this is going to completely work out, but that's my thought process at the moment. What about you? How are you kind of seeing this?
No, I'm like, the wheels are turning as you're saying that. I'm like, oh, that's a good idea. Oh, that's a good idea. Because I was first thinking about it when you were describing your friend, your coworker with the jewelry business. And I'm like, how does that apply to her? So I'm like, how does that apply to everybody? Right. And then I heard your ideas and I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense. You learn the time structures, you learn how to do it, as you called it, batching like that. She can have interviews, she can go travel and go see the latest jewelry. She can go to conferences, and then learning how to do it in that organized way. She has lots of free time. I love that. No, I'm hearing the same thing, because I'm really drawn to, although I can absolutely help anyone one-on-one, I know already that I'm at a level of, I want to pass on my skill set, because I've got so much experience that I'm like, my next step is seminars. So it's like I want to be able to give seminars, but I'll get to still be in front of people when I'm doing it. I don't want to just be me in a room talking to the Zoom people. I'm going to go do it live, but then that can get launched out on to the social media and have that more that global impact. And I'm present to, I'm like, well, not only are you going to have your empire that you're discussing that I just love, I could see you being very great at teaching people, because you just taught me and gave me ideas on how to do it, like how to make it scalable. Like, has that crossed your mind too?
100%. I've already I'm like 30 steps ahead of myself. Like, I have a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan. And again, it's not a 10-year plan. It's a 10-year intention. It's more, this is kind of what I intend for 10 years. And I'm like, full on, the universe has never played it easy with me. It's always taken me on friggin' rabbit holes and paper trails and stuff. Like, I have no clue what it's going to look like, but my intention is 1 million subscribers by 2023. Could be earlier, but that's my intention. And then, exactly, I have all these intentions, and I absolutely have thought about teaching. 100%.
Awesome.
That what I want to do is, like I was saying about these like Patreon tiers and stuff.
Yeah.
My $20 tier, I want to do a monthly Q&A for an hour, and I want to dedicate that Q&A to teaching people how to build businesses, how to teach people lifestyle, because the whole thing is, you can build a business, but the way my brain works, I'm extremely analytical. So I can break down just about anything. Yeah. And that includes lifestyle in a way that not many people can do. I can so easily be like, okay, this is like, they're like, oh, I have all these ideas. How do I fit them into a lifestyle? I'm like, okay, bang, 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 bang.
I can hear that in the way you're describing. You're like, oh, you batch this. Like, I was like, oh, you're really good at this.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So that's it. It's like, I'd love to just do like these. And again, the great thing about technology is that batching. I can talk to 1,000 people and quickly do a generic analysis of lifestyle. And then the people that really have more complicated lifestyles, work with them one-on-one or 5-on-5. and be like, okay, 5 of you kind of have a similar thing going. How about these 5 ideas? Okay, you like 2 and 3? Okay, let's workshop that a bit. So that's a way for me to get income, $20 a month from each one of those people. If I have 1,000 people on that tier, that's $20,000 a month just from that, right? Scalable. And I get to give back. I get to help in a way that, one-on-one's amazing. One-on-one is my passion. One-on-one in person. And again, 80-20. I can do 20%, like 80% one-on-one and pay 20% of my income, and then do 20% online that pays 80% of my income. So I can do both, because I've been thinking about this. I never want to give up that real connection ever. I will not give that.
No, I can't even imagine not having that. Well, that's the piece is the mental health piece that was so challenging for those of us that didn't have, like, I'm living alone. So during COVID, I didn't have family to be interacting with. That was the hardest piece for me, being like you, where I need that. It was like, couldn't get off of this, laptop and phone enough. But I relate 100%. I'm so excited by your passion. You're giving me inspiration. It's cool. I love it.
It's really exciting. Like I've been brainstorming this for 2 years.
That's wicked.
I remember telling everybody. I remember going on Facebook 2 years ago saying I was going to start a podcast, and it didn't start until like a month and a half ago. Like,
that's okay.
It's just I wasn't ready, and looking back, I'm like, I had, and it was more I wasn't emotionally ready. I think that was the biggest thing. I could have learned the technical skills, but I didn't have the confidence to be able to be a person who is going to help people. Because I couldn't help myself. Until I help myself, I can't claim to be able to help anybody else. And I still can't claim to be able to help anybody else, but I can share what I've been through and how I've done my journey in the hopes that someone who's similar to me, someone who has a similar background, and find inspiration in that and be like, oh, maybe that's a bit different, but 85% of that I can work with and I can do something with that.
Yeah. And it's like when you said, I can't claim to help. It's like, nobody needs help unless you literally everyone is whole and complete, right? Exactly. But you can certainly inspire. You might have a way that you do it that you're going to attract people that want to learn how you do it. There's some people that'll be like, oh God, he talks too fast for me. I need like a more chill person. You know what I mean? Like everyone's got their own, their own thing. There's enough. There's no limitation of resources. Like that's,
you have your like-minded people out there waiting for you.
Yes.
And it's just about like, I see this YouTube thing as like, I'm just one step foot of the other. I'm just putting out content every day, and I'm just buying time for my people to find me. That's all it is. I just see it as that. And sometimes I'll lose subscribers. And for the first 30 minutes, I'm like, oh crap, I lost some subscribers. But then I'm like, no, that's good. Like they were never here to begin with. They were never really the lifeblood of this community. And I'm just waiting for those people. Because the thing is, like, let's say you for a second here. Like, let's say you get 1 million subscribers, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Probably 1 million of them aren't going to be like your core blood. There might be at 10,000, 100,000. Those are going to be the people that will pay you on Patreon. Those are going to be the people that want to do Q&As with you. The other, 900,000, that's cool. They watch the videos, they take some of it, but they're not completely 100% resonant. But there's 100,000 that are, and that's all you're doing it for. Is like you're keeping those people. You're not even keeping them happy. They're going to be happy regardless because they connect with you. They connect with your essence. There's nothing you have to do. They just you and them, no matter what you do, will connect. And you're just trying to find them. You're trying to find your people, your family, your tribe, whatever that is. And I feel that's what we're all trying to do. It's your
vibration. It's your vibrational alignment. You're who you vibe with, and you're just going to pull it in. I love it. Yeah.
They just come in droves. And I do see it as just like, you're just buying time. Just put the stuff out there. Like be like, as they say, like be in action because momentum is energy. And then the universe needs energy. It needs momentum to bring like energies together. And because if two energies are standing still, how is the universe going to bring them together? It's like, no, okay, get some momentum. Then I can bring you there. Get some momentum. And then it's like, it will kind of course correct and take those momentums and bring them to like resonance fields.
I just said I was talking to a client the other day who was doing a lot of inner work. They were doing meditation and things like that. And I was like, okay, you've been doing all this is really great, but exactly like what you were saying, I said, now's the time. Like you're looking for these impulses and you're looking for the most downstream way the universe can bring it to you.
Yeah.
That's through the cooperative components of people. It's time to get out in the house, go follow something that seems fun. I know it's not, your Buddhist monk moment, but go to the store, go to Rappa, go grab something and let the universe deliver you the manifestation through the cashier, through the person here, through this person there, that the universe is waving at you going, here's the thing that you've been praying for. Here's the thing that you're focusing on, but it's not going to knock at your door. You have to go out and mention to your landlord about your cousin Bob is coming to visit on Friday from Lithuania. He's like, Lithuania? And like, it's those synchronicities. And that's what you're saying. It's like, you've got to go out in the world to have, I love it, the magic and the mystery of how the universe is going to have fun bringing you all these things that are going to line up. Right. I love that. That's why I was like, I don't know the how. I don't care. I want to see what the fun of the how is going to be. Right.
Like, yeah, we think we want to know the how, but no, we don't. Like, it is way more fun not knowing the how.
Way more fun.
Like, and it's funny too, like the habits we get in sometimes. Like, when I was in New Zealand for 3 months last year. Okay. And every morning I would go for a walk. I'd go for, I think it was a half hour walk. Just every morning. I was just like, and because at that point in my life, I was really into, Esther Hicks kind of stuff. And I was really into law of attraction. And I was just like, okay, I just need to get myself in momentum, in movement and let things happen. And a lot of things happened when I was in New Zealand, just on these walks, like the conversations I'd have, the people I'd run into. It was like, okay, something's up. Like, this is weird. And then it's funny though, like, and then like you get home, you get comfortable, you get into your routines. And it's like, I haven't just went for like a sporadic 30-minute walk in so long, just for the sake of going for a walk. It's like, now it's like, okay, I go for my 20-minute bike ride in the morning and it's for exercise, it's for fat, like, but it's like, it's funny that those habits, like when I was in New Zealand, I was literally just going for a walk to like, literally the intention was, let's find a cooperative component, as Esther Hicks would say, her terminology is just, and there is something, I love that. I love what you said, because that's it. It's just do something weird, break your habit. Do
something different, break the habits, and miracles show up.
And so feel your intuition, feel where you're pulled. Like, there'd be these times when I was in New Zealand and I'd go for a walk and I was going to feel like, I want to go through that alley. And then I'd go through that alley and then I found like a 3-legged cat or something. And then I started like being with the cat. And then someone came out and we ended up having a 4-hour conversation. And I ended up helping her with her kids and stuff. She had these problems with her kids because they're homeschooled. And I was thinking about homeschooling my children or something, a different kind of education system. And I was giving her my ideas and she was like, oh, that's a really good point. And it was like, that was all because I had an intuition to go down an alleyway. Like, and that's it. It's just like, get clear, just ground yourself and just listen to your, again, curiosity is the language of God. It's like, just listen to your curiosity. Where are you being pulled? And it's like that same curiosity led me to do the Landmark Forum. I still remember, like, when I was 21 years old, like just tell my mom, I want to start doing Landmark again. She's like, what? And I was like, yeah, it's been 15 years or something, like 10 years. And it's like, yeah, because I did it when I was young. Like I did it when I was 12 or something. And she's like, okay, cool. Do Landmark. And then now it's like, Landmark changed my life. Landmark introduced me to you, to Leo, to all these people. And and like the self-expression leadership program fundamentally altered the course of my life. 100%. Or maybe it didn't alter the course of my life. Maybe it was the course of my life. And I just kind of got on board.
Yeah.
But it's just funny how, these little things can just change the entire course of your life.
I love it.
Right?
Yeah.
It's just so weird how those little things can happen. But
that's my favorite. That's the magic. That's the excitement. It's like fine tuning my listening for that intuition. That's such a joy. It's like listening for like, oh, that song felt good. Like everything you just said, but like, it's so fun to crank up the miracles, like it's like, because it leads to all these synchronicities. And the more I listen for, the second that something feels efforting, that's what I meant at the beginning of our conversation.
Yeah.
It's throwing out the paradigm of the hard work, like just doing a to-do list for the sake of the to-do list. No, today I feel drawn to go have an ice cream and walk, even though I have this really long to-do list. Instead, the thing that feels better is this, and trusting it. And then going out, and then somehow I ran into 3 people that handled 6 things on my to-do list versus at home. And fine-tuning that is so cool. It's so juicy. It's like, and everyone's had those synchronicities.
Everybody.
People say it's coincidence. And I'm like, I don't know how you can say that there isn't spiritual forces at play when all these things happen, so
people get into their paradigms. It's like,
they do. Yeah.
As long, even if you're an atheist, as long as you're following your curiosity, you'll end up where you need to end up. It's just maybe you'll be a bit more stressed and anxious on the way there because you'll be thinking that it's all on your shoulders. Like I always tell people, I'm like, okay, there's no proof there's a God. There's no proof there isn't a God. Why the hell would you go with there's not a God? Like, it takes the edge off when you just believe that there is a higher power. Because now it's like, okay, I'd be doing the same thing anyway. My life would be the same. But now it's like, okay, I'm being helped. That feels better. Like, why would I ever do the opposite?
Pick the belief that's empowering. I never said it was true. I said that it empowers you. It makes you feel good. Go with the one that feels good.
Yeah, I think like so much of the time, like atheist types, they're so thrown off when you're like, there's a God. And they're like, they get so thrown off. It's like, I've kind of learned to go like, I don't fucking know. Like, maybe there's a God, maybe there's not. I just live as if there is. And my life is turning out pretty fucking good. So I'll keep doing that.
Yeah, but you've got a really good attitude where that's being respectful. It's like not being like, like my way or the highway, which is the source of war, It's like instead you're like going, I don't know, but this works for me. That is an attitude that really makes a difference, right?
Oh, yeah, it's so funny. So I was in New Zealand and I was hitchhiking, right?
Yeah.
And this guy comes over and he offers me a ride. I was like, yeah, sure. I just have to go to the next town, right? And I don't know how this happened, but like 2 minutes in, he starts telling me all about Jesus Christ and how Jesus is going to come back. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. Oh, sweet, man. Yeah, cool. Okay, Jesus coming back. He's like, yeah, so you believe that Jesus coming back? I'm like, I don't know. I have no clue. He's like, you have to believe Jesus coming back. I was like, I don't know. Like, maybe he is, maybe he's not. He's like, no, he is. I was just like, and I was like, oh, okay. I feel your energy, bro. Like it's strong. Like as a spiritual person, you're like turning me into an atheist right now.
Right.
Like, just your and I kind of took like, that was my turning point where I was like, oh God. This is probably what I feel like. This is what people feel like with me. Like back when I used to be like vehemently like spiritual, I'm like, yes, there's a God. Like, you better believe.
Pushing your views on people.
Yeah. Now I'm just like, you'll be brought to it at your own pace. Yeah. Like the thing is, you can't convince someone of anything. I truly believe that. I've never convinced anyone who is not ready to have their mind changed. Nobody. That's right. Nobody.
No. You can't assert onto other people. And there you go.
Exactly. I think we're like almost an hour and a half here. So I think we will. I know it goes by fast.
Yeah.
So we're going to pivot a bit. Sure. And so the first question is, for yourself and people listening, what do you think, what is your biggest takeaway from this conversation?
My biggest takeaway from this conversation. That's a really good question. How alike we all are. Like, and I know I said that, like knowing that we're all one, but I'm struck by it in listening to you and I speak. Like, we haven't spoken in a long time, right? And here we are, and it's the alikeness, like that profound human connection is there, that we all want that. Like, I don't feel I'm very eloquent in being able to express it, but that's what I'm struck by.
I get what you mean. There is like kind of this conversation, this energy, this effortless kind of back and forth of almost just being in a flow. Mm-hmm. All people, they want that. They want that with their spouse. They want that with their kids. They want that with the coworkers.
And what we're curious about. like the whole human condition, everyone wants to figure out their resources, how to live their best life, how to be happy, how not to have mental traumas, how to feel great. People love to teach things. They just want to be happy. And that's the human experience. And the human experience is that we're connecting. We want this, like you just said. And so I'm just struck by how similar we all are. Like that's what I'm struck by. That's my biggest piece, I guess. Yeah,
absolutely. And I'm also just struck by like every time I have like really inspired conversations, like I journal every night, and I write down 3 things that were great about my day. Even if there was nothing great, I like invent something. That's a great thing. I learned it from Tim Ferriss. Tim Ferriss taught me that. And he's like, even if there's nothing great, this forces you to like, again, kind of like law of attraction, spirituality, like frame things that maybe aren't like objectively great and turn them into learning opportunities. Like,
absolutely.
If I lost 6 subscribers today and that like everything was bad and I lost 6 subscribers, I'm like, oh, okay, I have to turn one of these into something good. Okay, I'll make it 6 subscribers. That means that my community is stronger than ever. The people that are still here, we're a more solid community. So it's like, framing kind of just negative things as positive. And where I was going with this, though, is like every time I have one of these conversations, it just dawns on me like, oh, like this is what life's about. Like, it doesn't matter if I, made 5 videos today or had a lot, or a video went viral, got a few thousand views. It's like the meaningful conversations, when I look back at my day and I think about just what made me happy today, is always like those conversations, those moments, even if it's a fleeting 5-minute moment, a smile, you really connected with another human being. It's like that trumps anything you can do in your day. It's just those moments of human connection.
And I keep seeing the 3-legged cat.
Yeah, exactly. So that's awesome. And I hope everybody listening got something different. But my next question is, what do we got here? This is one I got a really good answer from this yesterday, so I'm curious if I
the pressure's on.
Oh yeah. But what are you afraid of?
Oh, what am I afraid of?
Most.
I'm afraid of what I've already experienced. Physical pain.
Oh.
Yeah, I had an injury that I'm still recovering from. And the physical, well, maybe it's not the physical pain. Maybe it's the mental health
that comes with the physical pain.
Yeah, the physical pain hurts, but then it's that place that we were talking about where that person we say is lazy. I was alive in my spirit, but physically couldn't move. I'm scared of not being able to be out there so that I feel not alive. So I feel like depression and things like that.
You don't feel free.
Yeah, so the biggest fear is like being physically alive but feeling dead.
Yeah. I and the thing is, I think a lot of people are there, and I think a lot of people are stuck. Like one of my friends, I won't say his name, but I was just chatting with him the other day, and like he's like a very kind of spiritual guy, and he just told me, he's like, dude, like I'm just so depressed and so frustrated. And I was like, whoa, like, what's going on? He's like, I just don't feel like I can express myself. And he's like being around you, it's like, you're so expressive. And like, I can't do that. And it just kind of occurred to me. I was like, whoa, like the things that we take for granted can be so difficult for other people. And like our challenges, are nothing to some people and everything to some people. And it's just, I just really got that. It's like some things you'd never expect to take for granted. And you're like, wow, some people just don't like that's what I got from you when you said being in a chair or like, being feeling dead. It's like, it's expression. Like people feel confined and they can't express themselves physically, emotionally, verbally, in any way. It's just like, as human beings, I think such a big component of mental health is just being able to express yourself in every way. Yeah. And it's like, so much of our pill popping society, I feel like a lot of that would go away if people could really become present to their fears, to their to their anxieties and be like, maybe you don't have a serotonin blockage. Maybe you don't feel like my friend, you don't feel like you can express yourself. And there's a physical biochemical effect to that in your brain. And that's what people don't realize is there's a connection between mental health and physical health and emotional health. It's like, it's the chicken or the egg. It's like, do you have a serotonin problem in your brain because you were born with that, or because your lifestyle is literally resulting in you lowering your serotonin? So it's like, first, figure out what your anxieties are, figure out what your blocks are, like what you're doing, energy blocks. You're trying to clear these blocks for people. Yeah. Because when you clear that, so much of our physical problems and mental and emotional problems will just cease to exist.
Yeah, it transforms. Well, that's the thing. I disappear those fears for people. When you have the ability to reframe it and find what is hidden from your view, it disappears it as a concept. Like your friend who's like saying that he can't express himself. It's so amazing for me when I do the work that I do and have a session with the person and we have the conversation that reveals what is really there, and then be able to point out to them what is it it's the false thinking. It's like the thing that they've got that they don't even know. It's hidden from their view. And when that gets removed, it's like, boom, their life takes off and they have all this energy again. Like, it's gorgeous to see.
Absolutely. And the thing is, like, you can't explain that to someone who has not experienced it, because it, like you said, it is a blind spot by definition. It's like, and that's why I think a lot of this new age stuff goes over people's heads, because, all these new age gurus are like, oh, the love, like, don't you feel the love? And people are like, no, I don't feel the love.
I do not feel the love. I feel indignant.
I feel angry and apathetic towards you because you're making me feel bad about myself. And it's like absolutely like it's so easy when you've been through that. Like the reason why that comes to mind is I was listening to the radio today, and there's some like guru who's doing some infomercial or something. I just started mocking him for 5 minutes. I was like, follow the love, the love. I was like, oh, this is totally what people think spirituality is. It's like, feel the love. It's just like, and you can't explain this to people. You don't get it until you get it. And that's why when you say like, you'll feel the weight lift off of you, and like, it'll be such a transformative moment.
It is. Because
by definition, you've never felt that. You've never experienced that. You can't even contemplate what that feels like.
Yeah.
And I've felt instances of that, moments of that. And, and it's profound. It's just like, whoa, it's just, you can't articulate it. You can't. It's just one of those things, like Alan Watts says. He's like, we love to break things apart till they're meaningless. It's like, sometimes you just got to let things go and be mysterious, be grand, because you can't get to the crux of them normally.
Yeah, you made me think of music, like your passion for music, like a lot of people, and you can have the most beautiful symphony or the most beautiful sound, and sometimes what's so beautiful about it is the silence in between the sound.
Yeah.
It's that which cannot be named,
Yeah, and the silence is what gives the music form.
Yes,
there literally 100%. Is no music without silence.
Correct.
No melodies. What's a melody? A melody is a collection of notes in between spaces of silence. That's what a song is. That's what a melody is. That's what a note is. Is a note's only a note when it's surrounded by silence. So absolutely. I absolutely get where you're coming from. And lastly, now, this is the fun part for you. I get to give you a bit of shameless plugging.
Oh,
so what is the name of your company and the name of your website, and where can people find you?
Well, they can find me and my business partner. We both do the clearing, and we have a website that is called giveupthestruggle.com. So it's really name. It's really fun, right? That was one of our inspirations, right? So it's very easy to find us. You can book a call there. So it's like giveupthestruggle.com. And another way to reach us, this is also goofy, but I love it, is manifestationhotline.com.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
I like that.
Again, they were totally inspired moments. So you can either go to the website or you can email me. You can just email manifestationhotmail@yahoo.com. I deliberately picked Yahoo.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I did it. I know it's old school, but I was like, It made me laugh so much because it's like, Yahoo, I've got the manifestation hotline.
Because you sent me those links. And I was like, man, she uses Yahoo? Like, I haven't heard anyone use Yahoo in forever.
I did it on purpose because it just made me laugh. And I follow my own training, that makes me feel good. So it makes me laugh. So those are the ways to give up the struggle. Manifestation hotline at yahoo.com. Thrilled to speak to anyone who's drawn, to this conversation. Yeah.
And do you have any like social media presence, or you're not doing social media?
No, I'm starting that. Like when you said, what is your biggest takeaway? I was like, well, there's the deeper philosophical takeaway. And then I went on, and then on a personal note, I loved hearing his batching thing. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to start doing that. So I'm building that. I'm still in the process of building it, but I'll let you know so you can let your listeners know in the future when we have more built.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
So to everyone watching and listening, I hope you enjoyed this. And if you have any questions for Tanya or myself, please just leave them in the comment section below. And next time Tanya's on, if she comes on again, I'd love if she came on again, but we will answer them together. And if they're a question for myself, I will answer it on the next podcast. So Tanya, thank you so much for your time today. This was amazing.
Thank you for having me. I loved it.
And now, again, thank you to everyone watching and listening for tuning into the show. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did. And I'll see you on the next show. Love you guys.